Maxwell pinched the back of my neck until he was satisfied and then let go. I raised my head in embarrassment. Looking at Maxwell's body almost touching Olivia, I said to Olivia as if asking for credit, "Look, I told her to apologize and she did." Olivia had a stiff smile on her face, looked at me with apologetic eyes, and silently moved away from Maxwell. In the past, Olivia's expression like this would have only made me continue to cry and make a scene, but this time I returned her a smile that said, "I'm okay." Maybe I should apologize to Olivia. Every time Maxwell posted something about Olivia on moments in the past, I would call Olivia and scold her. Olivia always explained patiently, but I just wouldn't listen. It was only after today's collision that I realized the ambiguity between Maxwell and Olivia, just like my one-sided love for Maxwell and our marriage. Especially in that scene just now, it could be seen that she was uncomfortable all over because of Maxwell's approach. I limped out of the box with some determination while covering my stomach, and behind me were Olivia's worried eyes. Olivia kindly reminded, "Maxwell, Vivian seems uncomfortable. You should quickly follow and have a look." Maxwell said disdainfully, "She just loves to put on airs. Ignore her. Believe it or not, when I go back at night, she can still cook a big meal and wait for me." The voice behind me was like the clouds and smoke of the past and would no longer stir up waves in my heart. When I got home, I found that my period had come and there was blood all over my pants. After changing and washing, I lay on the bed and immediately fell asleep. I don't know how long it took, but a stinging pain on my face woke me up instantly. What I saw was Maxwell's angry face. He withdrew the hand that slapped my face and cursed, "You just sleep like a dead pig all day long. What time is it and you haven't cooked dinner yet?" In the past, I would definitely have gotten up regardless of my physical discomfort and cooked a big meal for him. This time I picked up the quilt and covered my head. "I'm not feeling well. You can eat outside." My abnormality made Maxwell silent for a while. He threw down a sentence, "If you don't cook, I won't eat." After saying that, he turned around and left, and the bedroom door was slammed shut. He didn't notice at all that I said I wasn't feeling well. I suppressed the habitual sadness in my heart and continued to lie down and rest. But soon the smell of smoke in the living room entered the room. Maxwell was smoking again. I really hate the smell of smoke. After falling in love, I have shown my dislike for the smell of smoke in front of him more than once. He just spat smoke at me contemptuously and laughed at me, pretentious. But in front of Olivia, when Olivia frowned because of the smell of smoke, Maxwell not only extinguished the cigarette but in his hand, but if there were other people smoking at the scene, he would even ask them to extinguish it. Once someone didn't cooperate, Maxwell fought with that man in order to show off in front of his goddess. In the end, he even entered the police station. I used money to calm him down, but he blamed me for meddling. The smell of smoke all over the room made me cough uncontrollably, and I had to get up and open the window and door to ventilate. I opened the door and the living room was already filled with smoke. Maxwell was sitting with his legs crossed and looking at me with a smug face. Sure enough, disappointment is never caused by just one thing. In the past, every time I lost my temper and hid in the room, Maxwell almost always forced me out in this way and waited for me to compromise. This time he used the same old trick again. But I won't compromise anymore. My cold heart made me stop opening the window and I casually closed and locked the originally open window. I silently blessed him to get cancer soon. I picked up my bag and turned around to go out in Maxwell's astonished eyes. After closing the door, there was a bang in the room. I don't know if Maxwell kicked the table or dropped something. He shouted, "If you have the guts, don't come back. I'm used to your bad temper." I breathed the fresh air outside, randomly searched for a divorce agreement on Baidu and filled in my information. I got in the car to my other property. After chasing Maxwell for so many years, I think I need to change the water source to wash away the shit that blinded my eyes. I don't like to hold things in my heart. I immediately called my mother and told her that I wanted a divorce. The strong woman who usually dominates the business world cried and laughed, "You stupid girl, finally become smart. How much hair of mine has turned white in this 1 year of your marriage? I was so worried about you. Do you want me to help you?" I said, full of apology. No, Mom. I'll go to Yanqing to find you after I handle this. This is probably what it means to be a bystander. When I wanted to marry Maxwell for the first time in my life, my mother slapped the table at me. She said Maxwell was not a good person, but I stuck my neck out and retorted to my mother, "You just dislike that Maxwell's family is poor." I will use my happy life to tell you that love doesn't need to be matched in family background. Less than a year later, I began to regret my ridiculous love. On the first day I left, Maxwell showed off the bento he made by himself on Moments. The caption was, "The goddess rejected my bento again. Whoa. I won't give up." There were meat, vegetables and fruits in the bento box. I had never eaten a meal cooked by him in the years I chased Maxwell. I could only see his cooking skills on his Moments. Once someone thought he cooked it for me and teased him, "Wow, you're still so sweet after getting married. Is this dog food going to kill me?" Maxwell replied to that person, "Your eyes are covered with shit. Vivian is just a shrew. What kind of goddess is she? Get lost." After that, he deleted that person's comment. I made a big scene in Olivia's office because of this. After Maxwell knew about it, he dragged me from Olivia's office and pulled me home. He cursed, "Crazy. Shrew." That night, Maxwell posted a short essay on Moments. 1/5 of it was to praise his goddess for her magnanimity, 2/5 was to belittle and denounce me for being unreasonable, and the rest was to express his love for the goddess. Since then, except for a few people who watched the joke, none of our common friends liked or commented on his Moments anymore. Almost only I would swallow my pride and express my love at the bottom of his Moments. Today I still commented, but the content was, "A toad wants to eat swan meat? Be careful not to discuss the swan. Spit." Maxwell deleted my comment immediately. Less than 10 seconds later, my phone rang. Maxwell's furious voice came from the other end of the phone, "Vivian, you're the toad. If it weren't for my mother forcing me on her deathbed, how could someone like you deserve to marry me? I warn you that if you interfere in my private affairs again, I'll divorce you." This is not the first time he has threatened me with divorce. Who would have thought that a newly married couple who have been married for less than a year, he has already mentioned divorce thousands of times. This time I'm ready to agree to his divorce, but he still hung up the phone before I could reply. I think he must be busy editing Moments to continue showing off in front of his goddess. Sure enough, in less than 10 minutes, a new post was up. Perhaps others are right. "You're like the flower on the high mountain, while I'm just a puddle of mud. But I won't give up on standing beside you." He is indeed mud, stinky mud at that. Thinking about Olivia's attitude towards Maxwell in the past, I realize that the strategy of retreating to advance doesn't work for everyone. Looking back, apart from his good looks, there's nothing redeemable about Maxwell. All the treatment costs for his mother in the late stage of cancer were paid by me, his pursuer at that time. Maxwell promised to date me, but he would still remind me from time to time that I couldn't force him to marry me because of my kindness. His mother forced Maxwell to marry me on her deathbed, not because she liked me as her daughter-in-law that much, but because I was so stupid as to expose that my mother was the richest person in Yanqing in front of them. People from the same family don't have much difference. Maxwell, on one hand, disliked me, saying that I forced him to marry me because of my kindness, while on the other hand, he enjoyed the various luxury items I bought for him with my family's money. Even the bento box he used to pack food for his goddess was a high-end custom-made one bought with my money. Maxwell also has a hobby of traveling. With his salary, he could go once a year, but he almost goes traveling once every quarter. Every time he comes back from traveling, he brings a bunch of gifts, either for Olivia or his friends, but never for me. Ding dong. It's a consumption text message from the flower shop. Maxwell's Moments is full of pictures of white roses. Unsurprisingly, there are 18 bouquets of white roses. Judging by the price, each bouquet must have 99 roses. It seems that Maxwell is spending my money again to please all the girls in Olivia's office. Olivia is Maxwell's boss. Maxwell's love for her is obvious, but he doesn't dare to be too blatant. Every time he gives gifts, Maxwell is always generous, using the card I got for him to prepare a gift for all the girls in the office. This way, Olivia doesn't have too many reasons to refuse. Yet when I begged him to use my card to buy me a red rose, he complained that the flower shop was too far away. Later, when I said ordering online would be fine, he said placing an order was too troublesome. After receiving the text message, my first reaction was to freeze his credit card. I can't get back the money I've wasted as a fool for so many years. The only thing to do now is to cut my losses in time. After freezing the credit card, the second thing I did was to put the house we're living in and the car he's driving up for sale online at a discounted price. I wouldn't feel at ease if I didn't offer a discount. Things used by a toad are likely to disgust people. After dealing with these, I was about to go out to print the divorce agreement when Maxwell's call came again. Are you free? I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Money can make the devil turn the millstone. I was just too indulgent towards him before. He can't even lower his head. Obviously, he found out that the card couldn't be used but still stubbornly invited me to dinner. However, I still agreed, but only to make things clear face to face. I arrived at the restaurant as promised. Maxwell was already there early. When he saw me, the first thing he said was, "What took you so long? I've been waiting for ages." I looked at my phone. It was only 7 o'clock, exactly the time we agreed on, neither early nor late. It seems that he's really in a hurry because he has no money to chase his goddess. I lowered my head and ate in silence. But not long after, Maxwell said he was full. He called the waiter to settle the bill and took out the frozen card. As expected, the waiter said, "Sorry, sir. This card can't be used. Could you please change another one?" Maxwell glanced at me a few times, still eating with my head down. Finally, his face turned bright red, and he waved the waiter away, saying he hadn't finished eating yet. Leaning forward, he said to me in a low voice, "What on earth do you want?" I sneered, "What do you mean? I don't understand. Weren't you the one who invited me to this meal?" In my half-smiling eyes, Maxwell finally blushed and stammered, asking sincerely, "Why was my card frozen?" I smiled and said, "I can't let you keep living off me, can I?" Then I took out the prepared divorce agreement and put it in front of him. "You said you wanted a divorce this morning. I've prepared the divorce agreement for you. Sign it. Sign it, and I'll pay for this meal." The expression on Maxwell's face changed from surprise to shock, but there was no sign of sadness. He looked at the divorce agreement with joy at first, but the more he read, the tighter his brows knitted. With a slap, he threw the divorce agreement on the table. "Why should the house and the car belong to you? How can you be so shameless? These are marital common property." I listened patiently. His long-winded speech was just to turn what my mother gave me before marriage into his own. I had expected this long ago, until a graceful figure walked in at the entrance of the restaurant. Then I said loudly, "You're not with me just because you're after my money, are you?" The words that Maxwell was about to say were immediately swallowed back when he saw the figure sitting down beside me. Olivia sat down beside me. "What a coincidence. You two are here too." I smiled and said, "We're talking about divorce. It's just that Maxwell seems." "Sign it. Sign it right away. If it weren't for you holding on to me, I couldn't wait to get a divorce." Maxwell almost interrupted me subconsciously, worried that I would portray him as someone who was after my money. "Seeing that you're a woman and it's not easy for you, the house and the car can belong to you." Maxwell likes to show off his generosity. At this moment, I'm willing to give him the stage to perform to his heart's content. He quickly signed his name, and I quickly put it away in my bag. After that, Maxwell forgot about his frozen card and held the menu, asking Olivia what she wanted to eat. Unlike when he was out with me, he would only order what he liked. Unfortunately, Olivia declined politely. I got up to leave and winked at Olivia. Olivia immediately got up and followed me. The two of us walked out of the restaurant arm in arm, under Maxwell's astonished gaze. I invited Olivia here. With the goddess in front of him, I guessed that Maxwell wouldn't want to expose his ugly face. If Olivia hadn't shown up in time, Maxwell wouldn't have signed and compromised so easily. I took Olivia's hand and first apologized sincerely for wrongly regarding her as the other woman without knowing the truth before. Olivia sighed, "It doesn't matter. You finally." Alas, the chairman will be overjoyed when she finds out. That's right. The company Olivia works for is my family's industry. Both Olivia and I know this. So I guess Olivia was so tolerant of my unreasonable behavior to some extent, out of respect for my mother. Olivia was hired by my mother because of her outstanding ability, while Maxwell was forced in by me. My mother also made a request that Maxwell shouldn't know that the company belongs to Vivian's family. Maxwell alone thought that he was highly valued and entered a top 100 company because of his outstanding ability. When I was sent by my mother to a friend's company for grassroots training, Maxwell lectured me haughtily, saying that if I didn't study more, I could only serve tea and water in a small company. In order to get a divorce certificate from Maxwell smoothly in a month, I asked Olivia to promote Maxwell, give him a salary increase this month, and make things as smooth as possible for him at work. Olivia agreed without hesitation. If it weren't for the fact that he's the chairman's son-in-law and your husband, I really wouldn't want to work in the same place as him. After Olivia said this briskly, she secretly glanced at me with worry. I understood her concern. She had said in front of me more than once that she hated Maxwell in order to explain her relationship with him. But every time, I thought she was just a woman who said no but actually liked handsome guys and was money-worshipping. This time, I smiled and echoed, "He's really disgusting. But you'll have to endure him for a while longer. You can fire him after a month if you want." Olivia finally relaxed and took my hand. "I've done you such a big favor. Don't you have to treat me to a meal? Let's go. Let's see if we can stuff your tiny waist." The friendship between girls is really amazing. We laughed, played, ate, and strolled around for a whole night. I never dared to think that I could become friends with Olivia. After all, I looked at her with hostility the first time I saw her. I got to know Olivia because of Maxwell. Compared to me, a naive young lady, Olivia has so many advantages. The first time we met, Olivia was rehearsing for the welcome party in a washed-out t-shirt. She was the host. I was rude and said, "Our college is so shabby. You can go on stage dressed like this." Her washed-out t-shirt became particularly eye-catching because of my words. I thought she would blush with shame and run away or start arguing with me, but she just smiled politely and continued with her rehearsal. Later, no matter how much I tried to make things difficult for her and ostracize her, Olivia still stuck to her path and was not affected in her progress at all by the trouble Maxwell and I caused. Olivia's achievements today and in the future undoubtedly come from her strong inner self-drive. In the following month, Maxwell was in his element. When I went to ask him to move out of my house, he was all smiles and we didn't make things difficult for each other. Probably because Olivia promoted him and gave him a salary increase. He probably thought he was about to win over his goddess with these moves. Even the fact that Olivia and I left together on the day of signing the divorce papers was all regarded by him as a coincidence. His expressions of love for Olivia on moments became more high-profile in words. "There are still 10 days to go before I'm out of the sea of bitterness. I will finally stand in front of you pure and innocent, my Yuan." However, without my money to buy high-end custom-made items and roses, the pictures he posted were just love-showing pictures found on the internet. They were really tacky. I couldn't resist taking a screenshot and sending it to Olivia. Olivia sent an expression of speechless and scolded me for disgusting her. Olivia had blocked Maxwell on moments when he first showed his love there. Olivia sent me a voice message accusing me of not doing my proper work, eating rotten melons every day, and threatening to block me if I continued like this. I quickly begged for mercy. "I was wrong, Olivia. I'm sorry. Please give me some guidance on how to handle the contract with the Ethan family in Jiangcheng. Please." Olivia was immediately distracted from her anger by me and called me right away, giving me serious advice. I rolled around laughing on the phone. My goddess is so easy to please. Olivia was entrusted by my mother to give me guidance on management knowledge. Recently, I've been secretly acting as Olivia's secretary. The more I got to know her, the more I regarded her as a treasure. It's a pity I'm not a man. I can't help but sigh that in my messy love life, only my judgment of people was off. With Olivia's help, 10 days later, Maxwell and I got the divorce certificate smoothly. Maxwell happily looked at the divorce certificate again and didn't forget to take the time to mock me. With this certificate, I'm back to being a golden bachelor, while you've become second-hand goods. I just gave him a cold laugh. A car stopped at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The car window rolled down and it was actually Olivia, holding a bouquet of red roses. She waved in our direction. Before I could respond, Maxwell rushed over from my side. Olivia, you're here to pick me up, right? Maxwell continued brazenly. I really like red roses. Maxwell didn't forget to look back at me with a proud expression. Olivia frowned, got out of the car with the roses in her arms. Maxwell reached out to take the red roses, but Olivia dodged and presented the roses in front of me. She said with a beaming smile, "Congratulations on your new beginning." Ignoring the stunned Maxwell, I happily accepted them. Hugging Olivia, I sincerely teased, "Thank you for Olivia's help and support." This time, we left again arm in arm under Maxwell's astonished gaze. Surely Maxwell wouldn't still think it was a coincidence. Olivia and I returned to the company. To avoid Maxwell causing trouble for Olivia when he eventually realized the truth, I asked my mother to transfer Olivia away for the time being. Today is the last day for Olivia and me to hand over work. When Maxwell arrived, Olivia had already left. I was sitting in Olivia's original office, approving Maxwell's dismissal decision. Maxwell burst into the office in a rage. He picked up the pen holder on my desk and threw it at me. I didn't have time to dodge, and the pen in the pen holder stabbed my eye corner, causing bleeding. "Vivian, what the hell are you up to? Where's Olivia? Where did you hide her?" Perhaps in Maxwell's eyes, I was still the same sycophantic person as before. I didn't waste any more words with him and called the security guards. Maxwell was dragged out of the company by the security guards. With the security guard's compassionate explanation, Maxwell finally found out that this company also belonged to my family. Maxwell shouted at the gate that I was abusing my power for personal revenge, saying that I had turned love into hate, and yelling at me to hand over his goddess. I deliberately opened the glass window. When Maxwell saw me, I gave him the middle finger and smiled triumphantly. "Yes, I'm abusing my power for personal revenge. What can you do about it?" Maxwell picked up the things that had been cleared out and threw them in my direction. I couldn't help but find it funny. I took a video of Maxwell going crazy at the gate and sent it to Olivia. Olivia replied with a helpless expression. Olivia was probably already at the airport. After Maxwell was driven away, I held a simple meeting and officially started taking over the company. Without Olivia's help, I was extremely busy. I was so busy that I was flipping through documents while walking, which gave Maxwell an opportunity. After Maxwell failed to meet me several times, one day in the company parking lot, I was hit on the head with a club by Maxwell. When I woke up, Maxwell was sitting in front of me, unshaven. I almost didn't recognize him. I was tied to a chair. Seeing that I was awake, Maxwell knelt down in front of me with a thud. "Vivian, please forgive me, okay? I regret it. I don't want to divorce you." The veins on my head couldn't help but twitch. Tying me up and asking for forgiveness? Is this such a friendly way of asking for forgiveness that I should thank him? I almost gritted my teeth and said, "Untie me." Maxwell didn't move. He kept confessing, slapping himself as he spoke. What he said, both explicitly and implicitly, was that he had been living miserably without me, that he had mistaken fish eyes for pearls in the past, and now he realized my goodness and hoped we could go back to the way things were. I couldn't help but interrupt, "No, don't say that. Your judgment was good. Olivia is outstanding. It was my judgment that was poor. Untie me first. Otherwise, when the police come, you'll have an even worse time." After I finished speaking, Maxwell let out a scream. "You called the police?" My hands were tied, otherwise, I would have slapped myself. I was so stupid. Maxwell no longer had that look of guilt on his face. Instead, a creepy smile appeared, and he started gesturing with a fruit knife in front of my face. You've really become smarter. You're not like before when you would come running to me at the slightest beckoning, being so slutty. Tell me, where did you hide my Olivia? Maxwell suddenly turned fierce. Ah! A sharp pain came from my cheek. Before I could find words to fob him off, he started slapping me left and right across the face. My head immediately started buzzing. Bitch! You don't know what's good for you. Just because you have money, do you think you're amazing? You even dared to corrupt my goddess. Maxwell viciously pinched my chin. The pain on my swollen and red cheek was too intense, and I barely managed to spit out a few words. Olivia never liked you. Pah! Maxwell spat in my face. It's all because you kept pestering me in college that Olivia didn't dare to get close to me. I finally got divorced from you, and you actually coerced and bribed Olivia into being friends with you, making her have no choice but to leave me. You're such a wicked woman. I stared at Maxwell, who had such a rich imagination, in a daze. I seriously doubted he was insane. Finally, I couldn't hold back and asked, where did you see that Olivia liked you? Maxwell started listing how Olivia had brought him into the student union in college and how she had helped him at work. I laughingly reminded him, the position you got in the student union was because I paid, for the more outstanding classmates, to withdraw. Olivia took you in just because of the old guiding new rule. It was her responsibility. As for work, you were able to get into my family's company because I begged my mom. As a company leader, Olivia had the obligation to guide her subordinates well. Over the years, if it weren't for my money, you should think about how much you could have achieved on your own. Maxwell looked horrified, as if he had been greatly hurt. You're lying. Olivia clearly likes me. It's only because of your appearance that she's avoiding suspicion. I gave up. Maxwell had always been narcissistic, especially after being with me. He was so puffed up by me that he thought he was worth hundreds of millions. In my youth, Maxwell was my obsession, while in Maxwell's youth, his obsession was Olivia. I clearly knew how many crazy things I had done because of Maxwell in the past. Looking at the Maxwell in front of me, his obsession was no less than mine. I was glad that I had a tracker and an emergency alarm on me that Maxwell didn't notice. Before long, the police showed up. Maxwell's fighting skills were useless, and he was subdued in no time. I was sent to the hospital. That bastard Maxwell had hit me so hard that my teeth were loose. I couldn't eat meat for several days. Olivia and my mom rushed over from Yinching. Olivia's eyes were red with distress, and my mom poked me, avoiding the wound on my face, making me shake my head. Keep acting up? You deserve it. I barely mustered a simple smile and said, people always have to pay for their youthful ignorance. Because I was injured, Olivia stayed to help me deal with company affairs. She sat by my hospital bed and sighed, you're so lucky. I'm always stuck with a busy life. I finally handed over the work, and here I am back after just a few days. Cough, cough. Blame whose lousy love affairs? Olivia pretended to hit me. As expected, Maxwell was sent to prison. During this period, Olivia went to see Maxwell for my sake. Mainly, she was worried that Maxwell would cause trouble again after he got out of prison. After reading the police's interrogation record of Maxwell, Olivia and I were speechless. After Maxwell left the company that day, he had actually figured out the key points. But his narcissism and arrogance made him unwilling to accept his failure and admit that the goddess just didn't love him. Coupled with losing his job and having no savings, he ran out of money in just a few days. In just those few days, Maxwell couldn't even afford to eat. And unfortunately, he also met a heartless landlord who wanted to clear the house soon after Maxwell rented it. So Maxwell was kicked out. With the little rent money he had left, he searched all over the city for Olivia, but the key was that he couldn't find her. He had no money left, and his spiritual support was gone. Under multiple blows, he settled for the next best thing and thought of looking for me. One reason was that if I still loved him, he could still stay with me for the sake of living and scrape some money, living off me. The other was that if he could get the whereabouts of the goddess from me, he could follow her again. But he didn't expect that I wouldn't even let him see me. So he sneaked into the parking lot, ambushed me, knocked me out, and took me away. Hearing this, I couldn't help but curse. I was so blind. Yes, I was scolding my past self. Olivia laughed and fell on me. Olivia and my mom stayed until there were no visible scars on my face, and then I persuaded them to leave. It's not that I don't like being cared for, but if they continued to stay, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to take over the company on my own until I was old. After seeing them off, I fully immersed myself in running the company. At first, I really suffered a lot of losses, but every time I did, I gained a bunch of valuable experience. Over the past 5 years, my company has been continuously expanding. My mom urged me to go back to Yenching to take over her position because she wanted to retire and travel. So I reluctantly returned to Yenching. And Olivia, she resigned a year ago, that heartless woman. She got married to the boss of a partner company and became the boss's wife. She can no longer respond to my requests without hesitation, and I deeply felt that the departure of a work partner is even more distressing than a broken heart. But it doesn't affect us having afternoon tea together. After Maxwell got out of prison, it was said that he could hardly even guarantee his basic livelihood. With a criminal record, no company was willing to hire him. He often did odd jobs, and when he couldn't get any work, he even resorted to picking up trash. But how he survives has nothing to do with me. After all, we've long since gone our separate ways. With the busy work and my first failed love experience, it was not until Olivia's twins chased me for candies that I started to gradually try blind dates. In the past, I stubbornly argued with my mom, saying that love didn't need to be based on equal family status. But now, for every blind date, I would secretly check the other person's assets first. Anyone whose assets didn't match mine couldn't be in my blind date list. My mom instead said I was being too picky. Maybe I was a bit picky. Most of my blind dates ended in failure, and for a while I thought I was destined to be single forever, until one afternoon, Olivia threw a document in front of me. I thought it was a cooperation contract. I was playing with Olivia's baby and casually teased, "It's my honor that Boss Olivia is willing to cooperate with me." "What are you looking at? How dare I be so shameless as to refuse?" Olivia slapped me on the head. Losing her former goddess-like demeanor, she put her hands on her hips and said through gritted teeth, just like my mom, "Read it carefully. A golden bachelor." I rubbed my head, grinned, and picked up the document. I thought to myself that Maxwell had also claimed to be a golden bachelor back then. Finally, under Olivia's supervision, I read it carefully. Sure enough, it's still more reliable to be introduced by a best friend. I immediately begged Olivia to help me arrange a meeting with the big shot. On a sunny afternoon, I met the big shot. The big shot met my aesthetic standards from head to toe, and I started my shameless pursuit mode. However, Olivia told me to hit the brakes. She sent me a message saying, "You still need to be careful even if it's someone I introduced. What if the information is wrong?" I looked at the shirtless man in front of me with 8-pack abs and asked, my legs trembling, "Are you really a golden bachelor?" The man gave a charming smile and said, "It's too late to regret now. Even if I live off you, you have to support me for the rest of your life." After a night of indulgence under his pressure, the next day, we rushed to get a brand new marriage certificate. I sent the photos of the marriage certificate to my mom and Olivia, and the two of them were so anxious that they got dizzy and were sent to the hospital. I took my newly wedded husband to the hospital to meet the elders. My mom had a transient dizziness due to the sudden shock because of her age. My mom was quite satisfied with my new husband. In the hospital, my charming husband showed great concern for my mom. People who didn't know might think he was the real son. He made my mom laugh heartily to the point that she seemed to forget about everything else. Yes. It was as if she didn't see me, her daughter. I looked at my mom speechlessly and said, "Didn't you say something about being well-matched in family status? Weren't you worried that I'd be cheated?" My mom pretended to prop her head up with the hand that had a drip in it and feigned sleep. When I was about to walk out of the door, she mumbled, "It's good enough that you can get married." I was. As for Olivia, it was because she was pregnant with her second child. Ah, it seems like it's the third. Forget it, I won't dwell on it. Before I even entered the ward, I saw Olivia pinching her husband's ear like a shrew. "Ethan, is this how you promised?" I was startled. I quietly backed out of the ward and, with trembling legs, took my newly wedded husband and slipped away. Pregnant women really have a bad temper. With the unremitting efforts of my newly wedded husband, the next year, I was in confinement at the same time as Olivia. When I finished my confinement, my husband made up a century-style wedding for me, and I was so touched that I was in tears. However, in the following days, he started the mode of living off me. He took our daughter and just loafed around, while I was exhausted working in the merged company of the two families. One night, that shameless man even dared to press me down and say, "When are you going to give me a second child? This time, I want a son." I kicked him out of bed to assert my authority as a wife.